Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We are back with One Piece live action season 2. So decided to do just a review for this one. So just gonna have it play in the background with like a watermark on it just to make it kind of match up like it's a reaction. Spoilers ahead, of course, but we just wanted to have some fun with it and also to go over my review because I wanted to watch it at my own pace. So starting off with episode 1. So the show came out 5 days after my birthday. Also wearing my Chopper shirt in the last 2 episodes, so thought I would have some fun. And we're starting us off with the beginning and the end for episode 1 of the live action season 2. Overall, so much better than season 1 already. We start off with Miss All Sunday, Mr. 5, and Miss Valentine raiding Town and killing a bunch of Marines, showing that they, like they did last season, where there's an overarching bad guy like the Arlong Pirates, but I feel like Baroque Works did a lot better overall than Arlong. And then the Baroque Works officially know about Luffy and Zoro. Usopp is working on an upgraded pepper bonds, and Zoro does regular weightlifting. And then there's also an inside joke about skipping Loguetown after Nami informs Luffy about the King of the Pirates, and then a version of We Are as they get into the next location. And then we also get into a flashback of Garp and Gold Roger on the day of the execution, where Roger tells Garp about his son. So doing the reveal early, doesn't say anything about his name, but that he wants to take care of his son. And then Zoro buys some swords for the whole, saying that him buying swords will help the whole crew. And Nami says she wishes there was another girl in the crew, which will happen later on. And then Smoker catches Koze of the Koze Pirates and asks about Tashigi. He's shirtless smoking his cigars. We also get a brief view of Bartolomeo as he looks at Nami, which is pretty cool. And Usopp gets his new goggles. So one of my favorite parts is that we got to see Bartolomeo because he's one of my favorites. It's just super fun that way. And then Usopp goes to call Kaya while Zoro pumps into Tashigi. And then Ippomatsu looks exactly like I imagine him with the anime manga hairstyle. Really well put together. Tashigi ruins his Ichimonji sale, and Matsu charges her more for their repair of her sword and says inflation is a bitch, isn't it? Which is one of my favorite jokes. That's super fun. And then Zoro does the Sandai Kitetsu test, and it's cool. I have my own version of Sandai Kitetsu, so it's really cool to see that in live action as well. Kind of similar looking swords. And then we also have the appearance of the bluefin elephant tuna. It's a bit weird with like the nose hanging out of it, but it's still pretty cool to see. And then Buggy appears again, flipping off Luffy and Kabaji and the whole Buggy Pirates. And then Alvida appears in her new form. We know that the live action actress spent time working out and losing weight in between to do like that reveal early, which is super cool to see. And there was also a bit of a trial, like a mock trial with like him wearing like the wig and everything like that. Super fun. Buggy wearing a fake wig and everything. And then the Straw Hats battle the Buggy Pirates and Alvida while Buggy takes Luffy onto the platform. Nami fights Alvida and Zoro takes Kabaji down again easily, showing how much stronger he is from the first season. And then Usopp and Nami defeat her together with a pepper star, which is a nice change. And then Luffy does the smile and I'm dead while Bart watches on, which is well put together. Then the CGI on the lightning strike is well put together, and Buggy breaking apart is a nice touch. Smoker first time fighting and double fruit use is well put together. Smoker and little girl ice cream moment, which was really fun to see because I'm glad that they kept that in. And then also the CGI on the Smoker fight with Luffy, as well as just the smoke in general. Our first appearance of Dragon when he appears and saves Luffy. He looks pretty well put together and looks like he could realistically be Luffy's dad, which is also pretty fun. And then Miss All Sunday and Tashigi have a scene together, which is different than the actual show, which is super fun, but also invites more Baroque Works moments. And then we also have Bart copying the bounty pose for Luffy in the mirror, which is super cute in the episode. All right, so overall, I decided to change it from how I was doing it earlier with the content in the background, just gonna do like the main Jolly Roger style up front. So moving on, so finishing off with episode 1 was super fun to see the Straw Hats come together again. Already starting off a lot stronger with episode 1. Overall, in a review, it does a great job expanding on Loguetown while tying the story together in itself. It's also nice to see all the different background moments and stuff like that. Like Loguetown itself was handled really well. Zoro's test looked awesome and perfect for live action. And Ippomatsu really felt like he came out of a manga. And then we also have Tashigi again. Tashigi looks great. Smoker looks great, especially his like abilities, the way his CGI looks. Much better CGI already than season 1. And overall, just some really cool lore moments like Garp being able to reveal Roger's son early, and then Dragon saving Luffy, and then even the quick Bartolomeo cameo, copying his bounty pose. So it really sets up everything well and just really situates things. So I have like wrote down what I liked about every arc and just paragraphed it out just to make it simple. So overall for me though, this was a very, very good beginning because I think I gave season 1 a 5 out of 10 just because I didn't like all the changes they made. It had like the same kind of feel, but it didn't really take me. This one like took me. Like this one was amazing. definitely one of my favorites. Overall, glad they made the joke about skipping Loguetown because they obviously didn't, which is perfect. So that was super fun and just really, really good, and definitely already better than season one, which I'm very happy with. I think right now, already with the first episode, I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10 probably. So starting off with episode 2, Reverse Mountain and Laboon. This one was a lot of fun because we finally get to see the crew kind of actually sailing and working together on the ship. We get our first introduction to the Red Line, the map, and Luffy's trust in Nami. We also see them laugh and have a grand old time before, the whole Laboon situation. And then the logo, as you can see from the Rumbar Pirates, Jolly Roger, and also our first appearance of Brook, which we don't know yet, of course, but the violin and everything, and Brook going around. So it just, Reverse Mountain was very chaotic. It was really fun. The Going Merry basically turning into a roller coaster while going down the mountain was also super good. And then the way that they kind of did it always reminds me of the anime, since, of course, that happens right after the first filler arc. So we have Eric there. So it's kind of funny. I was kept waiting for like a cameo of like a Eric lookalike, but they're just steering clear of filler entirely. And of course, we also had the fun intro by Crocus, the gang. And then while that's happening, Garp and the gang meet up with Smoker at Loguetown and chat about things, to kind of passing off the torch, because Smoker is kind of like the Marine focus now. So it seems like they're going to have a Marine pretty much every focus. So kind of Garp kind of pushing that off onto Smoker a little bit while he does his thing. And then Garp and all those guys go training and other things like that. And we also have our first kind of appearance of Laboon's introduction, and Crocus being as entertaining as ever, talking about things of what he's doing, like the shots and stuff like that. Kind of interesting though, the change of being on top of the Reverse Mountain instead of actually in Laboon. They do make a joke at the end of the episode about you might as well go live inside the Laboon and all the doors and stuff like that. So they did know about that, which was pretty fun of what they were speaking about and what they were talking about. Then also the Rumbar Pirates flashback, seeing Brook, Rookie, and hearing Bink's sake was a really nice touch, and helps connect the story better, especially if they ever get to, Thriller Bark, of course, since we know about that. That's why I said spoilers. And then there's also a lot of world building. So the newspaper mentioning Alabasta's missing princess, Smoker talking with Garp, and the introduction of the blog pose that will happen out later. We also get introduced to Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine, who are playing dead inside Laboon, the whale. And then they ended up coming out, and Luffy goes and gives a speech to Laboon, and then sings Bink's sake, which is nice because the actual singing is better than when he sung before. So that was a really nice touch as well, showing off that he can actually sing. And then Luffy, of course, painting Laboon and promising to come back, still hits emotionally just like it should, which was super cute. I really, really enjoyed that, showing that his caring and what he wants to do for him. All right, and then moving on to episode 3, Whiskey Peak, we have our first appearance of the rest of the Broke Works members, basically. So we also start off with a Zoro kind of nightmare training against Mihawk, who's essentially a ghost / appearing more. And then also Sanji wearing the panda apron while he's cooking. Mr. Nine, who was captured after being defeated last episode. And then Usopp and Zoro hanging around too. And then Nami coming back and forth during the weather change in a bikini, which I thought was kind of interesting. With rain and snow happening, showing off the weather changes of the Grand Line already. And then we also get to see just how cool visually Whiskey Peak looked. We don't get to see really the grave site itself, but seeing all the cactus and stuff like that, which was really fun. And then the party scene, and then the reveal that the town was actually full of bounty hunters worked well. Zoro fighting the 100 agents was definitely one of the highlights for me, especially because they did like the full set, appeared Miss Monday and Mr. Nine and all those guys, and just he literally fights every single one and even counts it down during the actual fight, which was really cool to see, instead of just kind of like cutting away a lot of times, which they did originally. Also, one of the great things that they changed is that they didn't do the Luffy Zoro fight. Luffy pretty much realizes immediately that they're bounty hunters and not good guys, which I think is a great change. That's one of the things that people hated the most about Whiskey Peak back in the day. So I'm glad that they did make that change, because it really works for the better. And then also Vivi's reveal works well too, because their book work agents like Mr. Flood and Miss Valentine were fun to see. I love their Devil Fruit appearances. I forgot to show off my Devil Fruits in between. So the plan was that I've been 3D printing like all 200 Devil Fruits just for fun, and I wanted to show them off. So this is our first one. So this is Buggy's Chop Chop Fruit. So just all that red and all that green. I decided to do a big boy just because I love Buggy so much. So that's our Buggy Fruit. And then also we have the Suba Suba Fruit, also known as the Smooth Fruit for Alvita. So that one's a little bit smaller. Had a lot of blast with that one. Then, of course, we have Smokers fruit, which I made extra huge because Smoker's my favorite. I did try to do like a shiny white on top of this white since we ran out of this one halfway through, but it doesn't look very good, but it is like the size of my head. So I've had a lot of fun with this one. This one's my biggest fruit because Smoker is probably one of my favorite characters in One Piece, especially on the marine side. Very, very cool to see. Also, we have my personal Din Din Mushi. I made it out of gold, so it's based off the live action version, of course. So there he is in all of his glory. Looking extra delicious. Printed him in gold, since I had gold for some other devil fruits I was printing. And then we also have the other crew members and other characters as we go through, which I thought would be super fun to do. So speaking of, for Whiskey Peak, when they appear and I start talking about them. So after the 100-person for Whiskey Peak, after Zoro takes them down, we then also get to see the reveal of Nami and the reveal of Vivi being the princess of Alabasta, who's Miss Wednesday, and then Brokeworks members like Mr. Five and Miss Valentine appear. So this is the Bomb fruit, which is really cool to see in live action with the bombs and everything like that. It was really well done. So there's like the little yellow top and then the black fruit. And then we have the Kilo fruit, which is the red kind of circle and then the green top. So that was also really fun to see in the live action, especially because their abilities work so well with it. And I feel like Miss Valentine's was a lot better, kind of implemented a little bit. Then also we have Mr. 8 reveals himself, as well as Igarim went after that, and then Luffy eats pie and they just have some fun, and then Mr. 8 asks him why he helps people. And then he's like, well, you're technically a good guy, after Luffy goes over what he's done there in the first season. I thought was a really nice touch, showing off that he's kind of like a little bit different than some of those other guys, which was really, really cool. And then Nami finds the dead bodies of the two pirates and realizes what's happening while Zoro battles the other guys. And then Miss Monday fight went on for a little longer as well during the live action, which was an interesting choice compared to the anime, instead of Zoro just kind of grabbing her by the head and squeezing her to be defeated. So that was really fun. He also beats them without killing them, which is a really cool time. But after that point, when Mr. Five and Valentine show up, Mr. 8 takes shrapnel and promises Vivi protection with Luffy. He then squares off against them, where Mr. 5 blows up Igaram instead of All Sunday, which was a really interesting change. Instead of like her turtle, Boncham doesn't appear. It just ends with with All Sunday appearing on the Mary and being super mysterious. And while that happens, Miss Valentine appears and kills Mr. 9, which is also an interesting addition, because that's what it looked like. Like basically slammed him in the face with like full force of her boot. So I wonder, since they only appear kind of like in the manga a little bit later down the line, because I know Miss Monday and Mr. 9 get married and have a kid. So interestingly, it seems like they're changing the rounds and they're basically killing them where they can. So Mr. 9 seemed to have been killed by Miss Valentine. And also we have the first time the mention of the Unluckies, and that Mr. Zero doesn't tolerate failure. And then we also have contact with Miss All Sunday. All right, then starting off with episode 4, Little Garden, we have the Nico Robin continuation where she uses her abilities for the first time of the Hana Hana no Mi, the flower fruit. So this is one of my longest fruit because we did like the yellow in one print. So I just went shiny for all of it because that's just kind of like her ability. So the Hana Hana flower fruit, one of my favorite fruits. And so they fight for a little bit, and also All Sunday offers the Eternal Pros and says they can get there safely. But Luffy crushes it, just like in the anime, which is really cool to see. And then also we have the Little Garden skulls and pretty fun CGI of all the different animals. The dinosaurs look really good. Zoro and Sanji have their hunting standoff, which was awesome to see. They also know what a T-Rex is called, like the full name of it, like they call it a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is pretty fun. And also the outfits stay consistent of like the different outfit changes between islands, which was awesome and a really nice touch. And then also when Luffy drags Vivi on top of the Brachiosaurus, the CGI looking pretty good on riding it. And also Vivi mentions Karo for the first time. So that friggin' duck better appear, because mentions like, oh, what I ride is a duck. And Luffy makes a joke about, oh man, I would love to ride a giant duck like that. And then Bragi and Dory were great. Their duel helps introduce the idea of Elbaf, which I really loved. Usopp also has more of an arc compared to Little Garden originally, which also was a really nice change. It was talking about Usopp wanting to visit Elbaf, but it was also a great character moment because it showed how much more serious he is about it, and that, you know, even if he dies, he'll go rescue his crew and he'll go help them after Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week get introduced. And the wax fruit actually looks pretty good on screen. I love the way the wax looks in the show. It's very, very well done. So this is his fruit right here. So went for, you could change this color at the top, but I just went for white all the way. So there's the Wax Marks fruit. Very good actor for that one. I really love his acting style and his choices. He goes that kind of weird sickly vibe of Mr. 3 very well. I think he's perfect for it, and just the kind of way he moves his fingers and everything like that was perfection as well. We also get to see the Zoro and Sanji team up and kill the T-Rex, and then they fight about the winning blow, which was perfect. And then Usopp does the tall tale thing as well, which was a really nice shout, which I noticed, where he talks about future events such as using a 5-ton hammer against a mole monster, which we know he does later against Drophy / Miss Merry Christmas. And then Valentine and 5 meet up with 3 in his wax house. Looks fantastic. I love the way that it looks in the live action as well. Really suits it. And then Vivi burns the Mr. 8 napkin that she had wrapped up in her hair in an Elbaf ritual that Dory suggests. So that's how she tied up her hair at the end of that last episode. And then also the mention of the giant duel. And then also we have the first mention of Nika as well, and that they drink their mugs of beer, which is different than the anime, because they kind of cheers and then they kind of do like a sideways thing. But Mr. Bomb puts a bomb inside one of the barrels, which is a bit different, but also a really nice change as well. And then Bragi goes down and Miss Valentine. And then Mr. 3 uses the wax fruit against Dory after Bragi goes down with a wound after he loses the fight, because he decides he wants to keep fighting on. And Luffy and everybody is cheering on the Giants as they fight, while Sanji and Zoro are doing their own thing. And that ends episode 4. And then after that ends, after Dory takes him down, he then uses his ability to take down Nami, Zoro, and Vivi and stick them on the sculpture. All right, and then the Mr. 3 Jolly Roger looking fantastic as we go into episode 5. Looking great. So this one is continuing on from Little Garden, which I'm glad that they split up into 2 episodes. So we get the first appearance of the wax statue that he's building outside. Also, Golden Week comes up to him with the building in full. Golden Week had painted over on Zoro and Nami, which was really fun to see in the live action, and just kind of like that moment. And we also have Usopp and Luffy moment where Luffy's crying after being painted on, and Usopp mentions Shanks and his dad, and he resolves himself to rescue them yet again after hearing about the giant pirates, and he resolves to be a hero for this arc. And this one's just, for me, really Usopp's moment to shine. It was really fun. We also have the Sanji Mr. Prince reveal on the Den Mushi. So Den Mushi yet again, where he talks to Mr. Zero, which was pretty well done. Also, how they started off with like essentially a voice changer, and then they changed it to where he still does the Mr. Prince reveal, because I thought they were going to fake us out and not do it. So that was really cool. I really enjoy that they did both kind of ways of where he's like, well, I already beat him up. And then also kind of fun to see like the fight style for Sanji and the Unluckies, where he kind of just beats them up and then he puts Mr. Zero on hold while that's happening. And he just fighting them in the background. One of my favorite kind of sitcom moments that they usually do in a lot of these shows is just super cute, and just that kind of reveal. And we also have Mr. 5 activating the wax statue with his booger, and the CGI looks pretty good as it moves around. And then we cut back between the different scenes and fights where the wax gets more and more on their bodies. And Nami tricks Mr. 3 wiping off the mark on Zoro's leg, which works because basically saying that Zoro looks better without it, and that he doesn't want him to see smiling. And he says that left Zoro with the 3 swords to show off that they took down Zoro, because that's what he's known for. And then Zoro try to cut his leg, but he only does like 1 cut before Mr. 3 stops him, which is kind of fun. Kind of like a way to like work around it, because he gets some serious bleeding on him, which is why he has stitching later on down the line in the anime when he takes his like shoes off. So that's a pretty fun way to get around it. And then after that, Usopp rescues Luffy while painting Golden Week with her like color palette, so it kind of like slams on her face, and it's a nice mix-up since they didn't have Karu to help him with the battle. And then Usopp then tricks Valentine into breaking the wax statue by basically chasing around it in circles. And then he also uses Tabasco guitar against Mr. 5, which was great, and the teamwork on all of that, being able to save everybody. So he was basically the hero of the arc. So after kind of benching him for most of season 1, it was really nice to see him doing a lot more in season 2, especially for this episode. It's in full. It was really fun, and definitely why I like this season a lot more is because of this episode. It made me very happy, especially because I binged it all in a row after it came out. So I was very happy with that change. And then after that, they make their way to Dory, where Luffy gets malleted by Mr. 3, and then they have their fight. Luffy takes him down, and the Giants have their theme song, which was really fun as they start sailing away. And then the Giants help the crew escape, cutting the giant goldfish, where their weapons break and their duel's over. And that ends Little Garden as they make their way to Alabasta. And then we have like kind of like an after credit scene where 3 waxes up Valentine so she doesn't tell Zero the truth, and the Straw Hats toast to Usopp for saving the day. So kind of interesting because it seems like Mr. Five's doing his own thing, but it seemed like Valentine was killed by Mr. 3 because he full on waxes statues her entirely, which is going to be an interesting change. With all the CGI and stuff like that, especially in Little Garden, I really hope that means that Karu is going to appear later on down the line, because that seems like the best bet. All right, and then going into episode 6, we have the first appearance of Wapol speaking with All Sunday, and Wapol looks great. I love the way that his mask looks and everything about him. Fantastic. And then also we have a different kind of change where All Sunday and Mr. Zero are the ones that give Wapol his devil fruit, which is kind of fancy because that means that Wapol has only had his devil fruit for what, like maybe 2 or 3 months at this point. So this is the Baku Baku no Mi, also known as the Munch Munch fruit. So you can see like that little slit in the middle. Just it kind of looks like chompers, which you can see better like that. Which is also an interesting change because he already has that steel basically trap, but then he has a reveal of the fruit itself, which was an interesting change. Kind of makes sense though, of like he does that to shake things up a little bit. And we also have the reveal that Nami has been poisoned, and Sanji tells her that after the last episode, she's been out for 4 days, and it's also snowing outside when everybody goes onto the boat. And then Smoker appears once again at a marine outpost that they think that the Straw Hats have taken out, but it's really our first appearance of some more Brokeworks members, which is also really fun because we get to see Mr. 11 as well as Miss Thursday, which Miss Thursday never appeared in the anime or the manga. She's been mentioned, I believe, but Mr. 11 has definitely appeared, and they use the same outfit. He appears later on down the line in Alabasta, where he's strung up on a boat by other numbers members and killed, basically executed, so they get to be a number member. So it's really fun to see that of Mr. 11 appearing early. And then we also have a Vivi flashback where we have the first appearance of the Reverie, where we see a bunch of young characters. Especially, we also see the Don Quixote family and a few others, which you can definitely tell by the way their outfits are. And then we also see Cobra for the first time, played by our main man, which was really fun to see. I liked him. I think his voice was perfect for it, and he also definitely appeared great in the style. And Smoker shows off his abilities kind of in full by taking down Miss Thursday, and Tashigi fights Mr. 11 and takes him down after seeing his sword. One of the sad things though is seeing all the broken snails to try to destroy their stuff, because this is what the snails look like. So seeing them all broken up and beaten up was really sad because those are living creatures. After that, we have them arriving at Drum Island, where we have a strong introduction of Dalton, who looks pretty good. I at first thought it was the dude from Teen Wolf, the uncle. So I had to look that up to make sure, and it wasn't. And then we also have mention of what happened in Drum Island and that things are bad and that essentially no doctors around. So Luffy makes the choice to climb the mountain, and Sanji decides to go with him in order to climb the mountain to get to the doctor at the top, since there's only like one doctor left and she's living in the castle. They did change it up to where Sanji and Luffy are climbing up side by side instead of Sanji being carried after getting hurt. So no stone bunny rabbits, no other monsters, kind of mostly humans on this island. It is mentioned later down the line that there is some kind of monster around that Chopper later mentions in the next episodes, but overall not really too much stuff. So it kind of just glossed over that. And then ends the episode away with Luffy and Sanji making it to the top, and Chopper and Dr. Correa appearing for the first time, which very, very awesome to see them. And going into episode 7, we go with the Chopper backstory as well as some more of Drum Island, where it's easily the most emotional episode, where the backstory with Dr. Hirlook is handled really well, and I love the performance. It hit me as hard as the anime. It was super, super fun. We also got some more kind of backstory of Hirlook as well with Dr. Correa, of like them hiding away, kind of like Beaver Dam areas and things, which was super fun to see. And then Hirlook outfit overall looks great. Him saving Chopper looks great. Chopper being injured, how cute Chopper is, as well as kind of monstery, was also really well handled. Hirlook explaining the meaning of the skull and crossbones and his dream to save the country and what pirates do, and that they can just do whatever they want. The mushroom scene is still super heartbreaking for me, like the poisonous mushroom, where Chopper kind of mistakes it for, since the skull and crossbones is beautiful and perfect, and that he thinks that that's what that is on the next to the mushroom, but Hero eats it anyways because that's basically his son. Super, super sad and heartbreaking. And Hero actually doing some more damage than compared to the anime, where he brings in with bombs and basically breaks through the whole entire area to try to make sure that the doctors are healed. And the whole "I'm glad the doctors are safe" moment with Dalton, I think I actually prefer it more in the live action than the anime, to be honest. Like, it was perfect, and it built it up a lot more, having it kind of extended in this way compared to the anime, which I really, really preferred. Dalton doesn't transform against Chopper though, but he does later on down the line. But either way, Chopper heavy point version against Dalton, and Dalton was actually able to push him back in that form. And also the first appearance of heavy point. It's a little bit wonky looking, but it's still pretty well done. And then during this moment as well, after this, Usopp and Zoro are back at the Drum Island area, where Zoro is basically turned into the guard captain, and Usopp apologizes to him after they fought the previous episode with a bottle of beer as breakfast apology, while Dalton goes to investigate. And then Luffy hangs the flag inside up on a wall, which they couldn't really do the castle scene because I guess because it's so huge, the CGI wouldn't really work, and also because they'd be standing on a roof the whole time, so it just doesn't feel very safe. Luffy does that while using his double fruit abilities, where it's showing off to Chopper that he's a monster as well, and then Dalton is shot with arrows and captured. Alright, and then episode 8, we have Dalton using his abilities for the first time. So this is the Ushi Ushi no Mi model bison. I did this one in 3 different pieces. So the horns are white, and then we have black for the actual ability, and then that. Also, we have the CGI of the Baka Baka no Mi for the first time, which actually looks really, really good, with the kind of metal around, and then the cannon coming out of his mouth, and all the different transformations. Bison, though, looks pretty good as well. And then also we have, in general, with Wapol and Dalton showing off their double fruits. All Sunday and Vivi have a conversation as well, because All Sunday randomly appears on Drum Island, which is kind of interesting. And where she also reveals that Munch Munch Fruit was given by Mr. Zero. And then Vivi calls Usopp Captain and Zoro Mr. Bushido, which is a nice touch, and likewise to the anime, which was really fun. And then interestingly as well, while Nami's still healing up and Sanji cooks for her, Nami asks him, and Sanji mentions his mom for the first time, that he used to cook for her while she was sick before she ultimately passed away. So that was really fun, because that happens much, much later down the line in the future. But it was cool since basically the benefit of hindsight, they know that kind of thing, which was really fun. And then Usopp gets basically Vivi an arrow that she shoots a rope at to the top of a mountain, where she uses to climb up relatively easily, actually. So I feel like Usopp should have lent that to Luffy at first, basically using his abilities for him. And then Luffy and Wapol uses like a secret passageway to get into the building, and Luffy and him have a standoff. Wapol starts monologuing, but Luffy ignores it and just punches him in the face. And then Zoro, Usopp, and the villagers fight the Wapol monsters. So monsters that Wapol ate and transformed into a bunch of different freaks. Their CGI is really cool, and I really like the way they look at them, especially because the Maru brothers, they didn't really change and have them transform, so it's only the 2 of them, and they each fight Zoro, and they each fight Sanji and Chopper, so that was an interesting change as well, kind of mixing it up a little bit on that front, instead of having them being transformed. But the Wapol monsters were really cool, and seeing Zoro, Usopp, and those villagers fight them was really fun. And so they team up, and then Vivi helps Luffy defeat Wapol after the big mouth form. And so Vivi actually fighting and using her abilities more, instead of just being kind of like a damsel, because she's first appeared using her little string things, and then she actually fights for real. So the Chopper and Sanji fight's pretty funly fought, and Sanji calls out his last move whenever he beats him up, and then Luffy takes the cannon blast whenever Wapol gets back up and shoots a ball at Hiruluk's flag, and he does the speech like the anime, but it's a little bit more wonky since he's just kind of like Spider-Man across it just to protect it with his body. And so it's less crazy, but it still logically makes a little bit more sense. And then Sanji and Luffy team up, where Sanji gives his leg to Luffy, and Luffy uses it to basically cannon blast him out the window, and Wapol's defeated and never seen again. And then the Straw Hats try to recruit Chopper. Even Vivi talks about it like she's already a Straw Hat, and Luffy does the shut up and come, which is a really nice touch as well, like the anime. And then just like the anime coming down the mountain as well, where they take the sled across the rope and it kind of looks like a Santa Claus motif where Luffy's kind of in the shadow just hanging on to the after almost missing it. And then Korea shoots the cannon in the sky from what Heroic was working for, where it's the cannon blast that makes one of the giant Drum Island little areas make it look like a tree stalk. Very, very cool. Love to see that. And also we see the first appearance of with Chopper's medicine bag that was in the sled after Korea and Chopper have kind of like a Vivi gives him his medicine bag, and we see the first appearance of the little bag of balls, which we know are rumble balls later down the line, which was really fun because Chopper in the anime only used 3 forms, which was Heavy Point, his like reindeer form, and then his like 2 bipedal form. So it's kind of cool to see the rumble balls that we know that there's more down the line. We'll see if they have the CGI for like the smart point and everything like that because they kind of just fought. They didn't really use any of those other forms, so it seems like they're kind of condensing it down a little bit. And then while the Sakuras shoot out, Zoro picks up Chopper while he's crying and puts him on his shoulder while the rest of the crew enjoy the blossoms, which was really, really cute. Also, during that point, we have Korea mentioning Gold Roger being Goldie Roger for the first time. And then she also mentions Willa D, which is another one for the benefit of hindsight. We still don't know that at this current moment after, almost 1,100 episodes. But it's cool that we have a character kind of mentioning it, especially having her do it because she's one of the oldest characters in the show. And then after that moment, they all have a laugh and have some fun, including the Luffy iconic chopstick scene, where after Chopper for the first time, which are really nice to see the chopstick like in the nose. And then Straw Hats also tell Vivi that they will save her kingdom, including mentioning Crocodile for the first time. Vivi mentions that that's what happened, and then while that's happening, Smoker and Tashigi are listening back on the Mr. Prince Kerfuffle, like kind of voicemail, out of the Dindin Mushi that broke. And so everybody's going to Alabasta because they recognize Sanji's voice as one of the Straw Hat Pirates. And we also have Crocodile's first real appearance as well as using his devil fruit. So this is his devil fruit. We have the Sunasuna no Mi, also known as the Sand fruit, right here. I used brown for this one because I didn't really have a sand color and I want to buy one just for him. The little cactusy guys and all of its deliciousness. And so everybody's making their way to Alabasta, which will be season 3. The crocodile appearance as well was pretty good. I love the glowing on his eyes, the cigar, the scar across his face, perfection. And he also mentions that All Sunday is also known as Nico Robin. And then we also see her child bounty poster, which was really fun touch because we get like a bounty hunter. We get a bounty poster appearance. How they do the rest of the bounty posters, one of my favorite kind of styles that they do. And that's that for all the episodes of One Piece for the live action season 2. On my overall kind of review, I definitely liked it a lot more than season 1. The changes that they made were better changes in the actual show compared to season 1, where the changes that they made was just cutting out characters and condensing things down by a lot. And the episodes at that point were only like 35 to 45 minutes long, but going for 1-hour episodes really helped it out, really helped kind of stretch things out a little bit, but it wasn't feel like it didn't condense down a lot of pacing in a bad way. It made it super fun, super interesting. And if anything, they added extra characters in this season, which really helped out flesh out the world a little bit more and keep things kind of flowing perfectly. The only thing they really cut out is Karu, some hit or miss characters as well. But Karu theoretically should be in Alabasta because they did mention him. So everybody's waiting for the duck, so they better show up with the duck. But the Unluckies, they showed up and they fought. Sanji definitely killed them this time. Like, the live action takes no spreaders, man. They kill people for real. Like, from what I can tell, Mr. 9, Miss Monday, and Valentine are all dead based off of how the show's gone so far. Mr. 5 seems like he got out of there. So we'll see how Alabasta goes, where because we know Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine don't appear in Alabasta, but Mr. 3 does. Because they can't kill Mr. 3, even though he could be dead during Alabasta, but it wouldn't make sense because he does appear officially later on the line, especially if they ever get to it. People are thinking that it's going to end at NS Lobby, the live action itself, before it gets kind of canceled as in run out of money. So we'll see. It just depends on how they go about it. But anyways, so season 2, much better than season 1 overall. I love Usopp's arc was much better. Sanji's as well. Luffy, Vivi was nice. I love her actress. She does great in the role. Really works well with it. Nami, of course, is perfection. I love Emily Rudd. She's beautiful and she's great as Nami. And then Zoro, a little bit less stoic, a little bit more comedy kind of style, which I really enjoyed, and it was a nice difference. He still has a lot of stoic moments. He still doesn't do his calling out his moves because they kind of just made a joke about it. But it's essentially because in the SBS, even though they're kind of like fake and whatever Oda's feels like, mentions that Zoro kind of has like ventriloquist powers in order to talk through his swords, but they can't really do that in the live action because it won't really make much sense. So that's why he doesn't really call out his moves, because since he does three sword style, he can't really do that. But his fighting has been great. I love McKenna. He's a fantastic actor, especially in this. Great to see that they've got somebody that's so versed in swords to be Zoro. And then Chopper as well. His backstory was super sad. Probably even more emotional for me compared to the anime because they fleshed it out a little bit more, actually, even though it's only 2 episodes, but since each episode is an hour long. And Chopper's kind of arc was 2.5 episodes, so the longest one in the season. Really made it work well together. So I think I would actually give this season a 9 out of 10. So season 1, I gave a 5. This one, I think I'd give a 9. I don't think it's perfection, but I definitely think it's the closest to, where it's so much better than season 1. But I feel like not really deciding what it could really change, but it's still, maybe the CGI could be cleaned up a little bit more, but the CGI still is pretty good. And it's just super fun. And I like the change that they did with like Broke Works being the overarching villain. And then the Marines also being kind of switched around from Garp, Helmeppo, and Kobe to Smoker and Tashigi was a nice touch as well. So that's going to do it from me for this review. Decided I want to do a review instead of reactions because the reactions take too long to edit, and just want to just enjoy myself at my own pace to binge it all in a row instead of like taking a break to edit. So I took down notes in between. So we had 9 out of 10 for One Piece live action season 2. Can't wait for the Alabasta season, which is season 3. They did film it back to back, but it depends on CGI and release date and all that stuff. What I'm the most excited about is Mr. 2, because he's my favorite One Piece character of all time, even though he has one of the least appearances. So I really hope Mr. 2 has done really well. I love the actor they picked for him. So I really hope it's situated. Some stuff that I'm excited to see for season 3 of Alabasta, of course, Karu, Mr. 2, and then I would love to see the Chopper and Usopp fight, especially because they established Chopper as a little as only using 3 forms, and he uses a lot more in Alabasta. And then also we have Usopp kind of with his elbow kind of situation, and also him getting a little bit stronger. So it seems like they're making Usopp in the live action a little bit less of a scaredy cat compared to the anime, which would be a nice change, because he's still a bit scared of things, but it seems more kind of resolved, where it's honorable to die saving your friends is what Bori and Dory tell him. And so that would be fun to see of him kind of come in more into that. And of course we have the Straw Hats kind of resolving stuff. So yeah, we'll fight for Vivi. And then Crocodile and All Sunday. I'm excited to see how they do the sand abilities with Joe Manganiello, because he's a great actor for Crocodile, and I can't wait for that. And of course the rest of the Broke Works members. We'll see if we get all of them, because we know that a lot of them have already died. But the ones that have died are ones that don't appear in Alabasta, because they use completely different ones. So we'll see how that goes. I especially am excited to see if they do Lasso, because I feel like that's going to be an interesting one of the dog with the cannon. Because like I was from Orangetown, so we'll see if they do this other dog with the cannon, because that's one of the most interesting Devil Fruit is that ability. So we'll see. So I'm excited for this. Season 2 was really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for season 3. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. I will see you in the next one.